been prorogued. Do you believe that coalition can survive? And if so, can it survive with Stéphane Dion at the head? Well, you would have to ask that of the two parties that form that coalition, the Liberals and the NDP. You should ask them whether they want to pursue their work, and I believe that the answer to that will be yes. We are still prepared to support the coalition, and when Mr. Harper said that the parties should make suggestions, which they hadn't done, he lied. We did do that. We did that on November 24th. I met with Mr. Harper. Mr. Laforêt met with Mr. Flaherty. The Conservatives said in the House that the Bloc had made constructive suggestions, but today he's saying there weren't any suggestions. Please make some suggestions. But he didn't listen to us. So he's just trying to play for time. Are you still comfortable with Mr. Dion leading the coalition? Well, you know, I answered initially, and I'll repeat what I said. The Liberals choose their own leader, so does the NDP, and the Bloc has chosen their own leader, and I'm that leader. There are four parties in the House, but only three parties are being asked for their opinion. He seems to be excluding you. Well, this is the man that came to my office in 2004 saying, if Martin is defeated, who would you like to see, or what would you like to see in a throne speech? What do you need? I was just as much of a sovereignist then as I am now. In terms of Quebec's interests, if the budget meets Quebec's interests, can you support it? Well, we made very clear suggestions which were supported by the other two parties, because when you look at the coalition's platform, it really includes a lot of the proposals we made on November 24th, a lot of the demands that were made in the National Assembly in Quebec. So I'd be very surprised if Mr. Harper could favorably answer those demands. That would mean that he would recognize Kyoto, even though he said it was a socialist plot. Now, if it did meet your demands, would you be prepared to give him a chance? Well, he said that before. He said he was prepared to meet with us and negotiate it. He did exactly the opposite. He came forward with an ideological statement. He's just tried to make fools of all of us. Well, it's his decision, and I respect that decision. Would you say that all governments that lose the confidence of the House will be able to go to the Governor General and ask for a prorogation? Well, that's the danger, of course, and I think that the way Stephen Harper has acted in this case, isolating Quebec, because he's saying to the representatives of Quebec, well, you were democratically elected, but I want the opinions of the others. I want the opinions of the national parties, but the Bloc is a national party since Quebec is a nation.
Going forward now, it appears there's a standoff. The government is still facing the possibility of defeat. What do you think should happen next?
I don't know. On our side, we have a platform. We presented a plan to face the economic crisis. We did that. Mr. Flaherty said those were good suggestions, but they forgot all of them. We've had an agreement with the NDP and the Liberals, and we don't have any confidence in Mr. Harper. So I'd be very surprised that we could rediscover a different Harper.
Budget includes the economic measures you are asking for. Would the coalition have to reconsider its plan to bring down the government?
Well, I would say if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a tractor. So we'll see then.
What about the way this unfolded? Does this foster more nationalistic sentiment among Quebecers? Well, I'm focusing on the interests of Quebecers, and in an economic crisis, we're not the only ones facing the issues, of course. And the measures that we are proposing are good for Quebecers, but they're just as good, I believe, for the victims of this crisis here in Canada. So my concern is to answer that, and that's exactly what we did on November 24th. And please remember that on November 24th, the context was completely different. We did that outside the current context. If there's someone who has transformed the crisis, the economic crisis, through his attitude into a political crisis, well, it's Stephen Harper, and he has to take that responsibility.
We have the same kind of attitude towards him. We don't believe him. We don't have confidence in him.
Qu'il va payer au Québec?
What political price will he pay in Quebec? Well, I don't make predictions, but he did say that the elected officials from Quebec don't have the same value as elected
sort of a
members from
battle
elsewhere in
for hearts and
Canada.
minds going on in terms of selling this coalition. What did you say to Mr. Dion after that problem with his address to the nation last night?
Well, I don't want to discuss those things. I have problems. Every day, a politician has to face problems in organizing himself and his party. I'm totally dedicated to that for my party, and I'll let the others decide for themselves. Merci.
Bloc québécois leader